This is the American Standard Cadet Specifier toilet, a toilet that does indeed exist. It was introduced around circa 2001 or 2 and was made up until circa 2010 or 11. This is one of the many 1.6 Cadet Spinoffs. This is literally a 1.6 Cadet Bowl on a colony tank, and that literally is pretty much it. You're probably thinking this is like a space saver model, but it really isn't. You can tell that the tank is quite big, so it really isn't space saving at all. So how does this model compare to the original 1.6 Cadet? Well, let's find out. The overall design is a lot more plain now. This is mostly due to the tank design being a lot more blander compared to the original 1.6 Cadet tank. The tramway opening and passages are virtually the same, so not much needs to be said here. The tank parts are very simplistic, but they do work fine and can be interchanged at any time. You got the handle, the fill valve, and of course a standard basic flapper. You can tell it's under the waterline as you can see, but it necessarily doesn't matter in this case considering that it flushes fine. Let's have a look at a flush now. As always, the flush is still very inconsistent. As you can tell, quality control is probably the biggest problem with this toilet. The inconsistent flushes, bowl rinses, performances, and trapway openings, they're all still there on this particular model still. Now compared to the original 1.6 Cadet, I don't see these things not flushed out compared to some earlier versions of the 1.6 Cadet, which is a good sign, but still, quality control issues are still here nonetheless. The pulling and siphon power of this toilet is still very inconsistent due to its inconsistent flushes and siphons. While it is a slight bit better compared to the original 1.6 Cadet, it still really isn't that great, honestly. While the performance is a little bit better, the performances overall are still not very good, as this thing is capable of clogging still due to its trapway opening and passages, which are not a very good design. While the performances are a little bit better compared to the original 1.6 Cadet, that really isn't saying much at the end of the day. Let's have a look at bowl rinse now. As you can tell, it's pretty bad. You can tell that on this particular example that some of the rims just don't seem to be functioning very well. Now, they could be clogged or something, which could be a fair point, but this is kind of a common problem with inconsistent bowl rinses on this toilet. For a swirly toilet, it's pretty bad. Here's another angle. And that is the American Standard Cadet Specifier toilet, a toilet that definitely does exist, and I don't know why. Sure, this thing has some slightly minor upgrades, but overall is no different compared to the 1.6 Cadet toilet, and definitely still has its problems. I really don't know why this model exists, but it does. But let's put this toilet into the grading scale, and let's see how it compares to the original 1.6 Cadet. Let's grade it. The original 1.6 Cadet actually looked kind of nice. The Cadet Specifier, on the other hand, looks a lot more dull. It's funny how it went from a 7 straight down to a 5. The Cadet Specifier design is just a lot more boring. The tank parts are very simplistic, but that's probably the best thing. Simplicity is nice, and they can be interchanged at any time, so they both share a score of a 7. I ran through the can of worms that is the quality control of the 1.6 Cadet. I ended up giving it a 2. Is the Cadet Specifier any better? Not really. Now, thankfully, it seems like they are imported from certain countries compared to the 500 different countries that the 1.6 Cadet went from, considering that most of the Cadet Specifiers I've seen are from mostly Mexico, although some of the earlier ones were made in the US. But unfortunately, the quality control problems are still there. Inconsistent flushes, bowl rinses, performances, and all the rest. At most, I'll give it a 3 because it's a slight bit better, but slight is an overstatement, honestly, because it's really not much better. Since the bowl designs are the exact same, the trapways are still not greatly designed, so both of them get a score of a 4. Yep, the flushes are still inconsistent. Theoretically, it looks like it'll be okay, but the inconsistent flushes do bring a down on these. Sometimes they're too fast, sometimes they're too slow. Again, the flushes are just all over the place. And the Cadet Specifier still has the same exact problem. So in that case, they both get a 5. The pulls and siphons at first glance seem fine, but they really aren't that good. I gave the original 1.6 Cadet a 4, considering that you can find some that can't even flush out. Thankfully for the Cadet Specifier, that issue doesn't seem to be present, but the flushes are still very inconsistent. That includes the pulling and siphon powers, so at most it's getting a 5. On the original 1.6 Cadet, I gave the performance a 3, considering that it was all over the place and generally speaking was very crappy. On the Cadet Specifier, it's slightly better, but not really. The performance is still not very good. Again, it's just a poor trapway design, so at most, it's getting a 4. Yeah, the bowl rinse on both of these toilets is pretty bad. You would think it would be a lot better considering it has angled ramjets, but the quality control of the ramjets as well as the application of the ramjets is not very good. So they both end up sharing a 4. Very disappointing, honestly. For the original 1.6 Cadet, the survivability was not very good, so I ended up giving it a 4. For the Cadet Specifier, it's slightly better, but even that's kind of a stretch. It's getting a 5 at most. For the original 1.6 Cadet, I concluded that this toilet was an absolute mess. Quality control and poor design was the biggest problems, and I end up giving it a 3. The Cadet Specifier really isn't that much better. It's a slight improvement, but even that is kind of a stretch. At least it's not made from 500 different countries like the original 1.6 Cadet, but still it has quality control issues and still a very poor design. It's a slight upgrade compared to the original 1.6 Cadet, but honestly, it's still not a very good model. So for the value, it's a 4. Let's compare the final scores of each toilet. The original 1.6 Cadet got a 43 out of 100, while the American Standard Cadet Specifier got a 46 out of 100. Yep, a few points different, but still not a very good model. Sure, the Cadet Specifier is a slight upgrade, but still that's kind of a stretch. It still has issues with quality control and poor design choices, but it's a slight bit better. Not really.